Hi everyone, welcome back to the GitOps Monthly. This is our first episode, fourth episode, but actually it's the first one of this year. So again, this is kind of a space that we designated to leverage and raise awareness on community topics. So thank you so much and welcome, and thank you for joining this edition. My name is Adriana. I'm your host today. I work closely with Argo and Kargo open source communities to organize webinar sessions and community events, to help up and share some knowledge. If you have any topic that would like to engage with us and you would like to stay connected, please find me on LinkedIn. Also, you can join the Akuity Discord channel to keep the conversation going. I'm going to drop just if you are interested, the link on the chat about joining. One sec, everyone. So this is the Discord link. So if you want to join us, please go ahead and you can find me there. Okay, so before starting, I want to say a big thank you to Akuity for hosting today's session. Akuity was founded by Hong, Alex, and Jesse, the original creators of Argo CD and Kargo, tools that have been the standard for cloud-native deployments for the enterprise. Akuity is the GitOps platform for Kubernetes, built especially for the enterprise usage. And the Qt platform enables teams to achieve instant deployments, automate promotion, and real-time monitoring across all their Kubernetes cluster. So thank you so much, Akuity, for today's session. And coming back for today's topic, so we have here two special speakers, and today's topic is how Telecom use Argo CD and Kargo to run GitOps at scale. And I will just stop sharing because I know our speakers are going to give a quick intro.
Well, welcome everyone. Quick overview here of us. So I am Taylor Thomas. I'm a staff software engineer at Akuity. I work a lot on the cargo side of things, as well as on our Akuity platform. So I'll be talking today a lot about the cargo side of things, and I'll pass it off to my co-speaker to introduce himself.
Okay, thank you. I'm Johannes. I'm from Germany, working for Deutsche Telekom, and I'm a technical product manager. Is the term, and that means I'm responsible for making sure that we, as a platform engineering team, build the right tools, and make sure that these tools are scalable for all the services we run. But we'll hear more about this later.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Just a brief overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to first start off. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about what is Kargo. I'll explain that in a bit, and then Johannes will take the majority of this because that's probably what you want to see. They have a really cool thing that they're doing over at Deutsche Telekom. He'll give some history about that, show what's going on, do a walkthrough demo. We'll answer questions as they come in and insert them in at the right, like whenever we have a little bit of a gap. So feel free to submit your questions as we go through, and then we'll talk a little bit about any challenges that we're faced and future roadmap, where things are going, and leave some time at the end for Q&A. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So what is Kargo? I wanted to start off with this because I think a lot of people joining this call are at almost certainly familiar with Argo, but maybe have heard of Kargo, or maybe you've used Kargo, maybe you haven't. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what Kargo is, because showing how that works together with Argo is the key point of everything we're doing today. Just so you can kind of see like where it fits, what's the gap it's trying to fill in your workflows that you have right now. So what is Kargo? The simple one-liner, it's multi-stage GitOps continuous promotion. Now, what do we mean by that? So you can see here, this is just a screenshot of our of a Kargo instance that's showing what's going on. But Kargo lets you take things that you have gotten ready to deploy, those being artifacts and config and manifests and all those kind of things, and lets you roll them through what we call stages. Stages are represented here. In this case, they're environments, but stages are actually a very useful tool that can represent waves of things. It could represent regions. They're called stages and not environments for that specific reason. They can represent an environment, but they don't have to. And so in this case, this is showing rolling an image through various environments. So a dev, staging, and prod, and getting an overall view of where everything's at and what's been deployed. So why do we have Kargo? The whole purpose of why we have Kargo is to fill this gap of right now, if you aren't using something like Kargo and you're very heavy into GitOps, you've probably run into this issue where you have some sort of bespoke set of scripts or things that you run that might be in something like Jenkins or or it could be something like GitHub Actions, and you have custom pipelines for it, and they all run. There's not really like one place to see the visibility of where everything's been deployed at. And so essentially you go from this like very brittle bespoke system to something a little bit better. That's where Kargo comes in. We wanted it, the whole purpose of it was to fill that gap. You've deployed everything, but then I've liked to call it the config and code cocktail, like which version of the code with which version of the manifest with which version of the config values that you all have in Git. And so this is Kargo is a purpose-built tool. I like to also even call it a toolbox that gives you these safe, consistent environment promotions that are repeatable. So everything becomes a self-service release. When you're ready to go, you package things up in what we call freight, which is those connections. You say it's this image, this config, and these things go together, and they move together through each of those stages. And so these things come in with your built-in guardrails. It comes in with testing and validation. And really, it's that end-to-end visibility of everything that's going across your environment. So in terms of graph form, that maybe will help a little bit with that. Essentially, you have something like your CI system that pushes your new artifact, or after you've merged, does some validation on your manifests or your config values. And those things get pushed into, for example, your container repository. Meanwhile, you also have, like I mentioned, your GitOps repo. Now, what Kargo can do is it can detect that there's a new artifact that's coming in from both the GitOps repo or the container registry. And when it sees that, it starts running its promotion. Sometimes that involves also what we call the rendered manifest pattern. So it can run like a customized build. It can run, or you can insert a value and do a Helm rehydration step. And all those things can then get pushed back to your GitOps repo. So then as soon as everything has been pushed into your GitOps repo, you can trigger an update to Argo CD. And Argo CD will go ahead and do exactly what you're used to it doing. It'll reconcile everything, pull in the changes from Git. And then Kargo takes advantage of things like analysis runs or metrics that are from your systems to verify that you have actually done it successfully, that everything's running, nothing is broken. And then as soon as that passes, it marks it as complete and done. And you'll see some of that in the demo coming up of how this all works. So that's the high level overview of Kargo, and I think you'll really get to see it when you're seeing it in action here in just a second with what Johannes is showing. But just wanted to give you a little bit of that background in case you weren't familiar with what Kargo does, to see where it fits into the whole ecosystem that you're used to. So what are the benefits of all this? Well, first off, it's that flexible pipeline thing. You can adapt your promotion to however it works. Kargo does not enforce a specific branching pattern or any type of pattern on you. Like I said at the beginning, it is a toolbox. You have a whole set of tools, you put them together with whatever works for your flow. You don't really have to change your flow to start adopting Kargo. It's also very clear in its visibility. When I showed that picture, you could see different colors on those artifacts on top. That's indicating where each of the things are at. So you can know which artifact has been deployed to which stage at any given time. It really does simplify the GitOps part of the whole GitOps pipeline, because we're taking away that complexity that's in the middle from getting it to production. Now, when we say reliable releases, what I'm talking about here is you can constantly and verifiably know that you have done what you were intending to do. You can say, I'm going to release this set of artifacts, and I'm going to know that by my testing and my data that it has been released. And that ties very much into that verification. Those last two steps are kind of go hand in hand. So those are your main benefits that you're going to be getting from doing something with Kargo. Kargo is a very mature project. It's been around for a while. There's a lot of people who use it. You're going to see one in just a second. With what Deutsche Telekom does, it's really, really cool. It's open source. You can give it a try, and we also have our hosted version on the Akuity platform. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Johannes to go ahead and explain everything that they're doing.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me quickly share my screen and then we can get going. So, of course. So here we are. So first of all, let me give you a brief context about Deutsche Telekom because you might not have heard it. You might have heard one of our subsidiaries or parts of Deutsche Telekom, which is T-Mobile. I guess especially folks in US will have heard about it. But Deutsche Telekom is a very big company in over 50 countries, and we're mainly doing or connecting people, means mobile network, fixed line network, TV, the different aspects of a digital life, basically. And across the world, we got about 260 million customers, so it's a very big company. And if we look at what we are doing, like my team is doing, we're talking about running a platform for mostly B2C services in Germany for all the digital channels with about 20 million users a day. And we're day by day extending this platform to also incorporate or to also be a hosting platform for other parts in the company for all kind of workloads, basically. But I don't want to go too much into detail about this platform engineering thing. I think everyone has heard about it. Everyone has incorporated it. The most important part is we provide the internal developer platform there. So the question why stands in the beginning, and here from some historic context, we started a while back to digitalize different customer channels, and this comes from a very strong need for Deutsche Telekom to reduce the legacy and modernize its business systems. So we're talking about business systems that have been 20, 30 years old, where you have a very big need to move very fast to more digital versions like microservices. And if you can imagine the pressure, you can imagine how important a very strong digital foundation for these new services is, because we have to move very fast and it needs to be very reliable as well at the same time, which requires us to build a good, fast, secure, and reliable internal development platform. And if we're talking about size, you can imagine that right now we're running about 500 different microservices. So different service repositories, you can say, alone. And in future, of course, it will be even more. And you can imagine we have about 40 dev teams using the platform at the moment, each between 8 and 10, 12 developers. And you cannot imagine what pain we went through the last years, by unifying these teams and making sure that their deployment processes are good and that they can deploy reliably and everything. So this scale brings us to the question: why are we even using Argo CD Kargo, Argo rollouts as well? And that has a couple of reasons that were already mentioned partly, but I can add a little bit more context to it. So until now, we were using classic pipelines. And you can see on the right-hand side, this picture, it shows you pipelines are inherently messy at some point because the complexity constantly evolves and you need to somehow provide users with a predefined pattern for the pipeline so that they don't have to re-implement everything on their own. But on the other hand, also give them the flexibility to have their own stages, testing, and everything in there. Now, this becomes pretty messy pretty quick. You can see on the right-hand side, this is one of our, I just took the first one I found. This is one of these pipelines. This was 7 days ago. Honestly, no one knows what is deployed at the moment. I'm being honest, like no one can tell me exactly with one look, okay, we have deployed version XYZ, because some of these jobs in there maybe ran twice or 3 times or were rolled back afterwards. Nobody can tell. Yeah. And the second thing also is pipelines also are a one-shot thing. They won't be reconciliated. Um, if someone decides to run kubectl edit because he has a problem on production, for example, I don't know, you're getting paged at 2 in the night and you run kubectl edit just to fix the problem, this is going to live on forever until it's changed again, which can be a huge problem. And the second thing is also they are also not cleaned up, except of course if you add another kind of logic for it. So let's say you create dynamic environments, for example, for our developers, they want to test things. They create dynamic environments, namespaces on Kubernetes, but they are just not cleaned up necessarily. So then you need another cleanup logic to make sure that this goes away again, yeah, and that resources are saved in the end. So there are a couple of challenges with pipelines that we found that led us to move away from the classic pipeline approach in the first place, and about why Argo CD and rollouts in Kargo. Yeah, there are a couple of reasons for that as well, and that is mainly because, of course, it's very auditable because everything's in Git, so the history is clear. It's very clear who did what at what time. Yeah, you just need to look into the Git history, and that's it. It has a very, very good UI, which helps us a lot with developers because we have developers with different kind of experience. Some have experience of maybe 1 year of fresh out of college or juniors. Some have the experience for 10, 15, 20 years in software engineering. And the UI gives us a unified layer. Like everyone can use it out of the box. You can pass links around, even if you're, I don't know, if you find something at 2 in the night, you can just copy the link, save it for the next day for the RCA and everything. You don't have to, or the interaction is very easy and it's very visible as well. And especially if you don't want to build custom integrations for your self-service and everything, then out of the box UI that feels good, that is clear, that gives the people a clear status about the resources, helps you a lot because you already don't have to implement something like that. The configuration options are great and go very well together. We can have a look at it later, but it's very GitOps friendly. Even if you want to do GitOps for all the configuration, you can do that. That's absolutely awesome. We have a huge bonus point with Kargo because it lets us use those hydrated YAML manifests, and I will show you in the demo what that means and why I think it's so important, because you literally get the same definition in Git as you will have in Kubernetes. So there's no abstraction layer like, I don't know, umbrella charts, chart dependencies that are just executed at runtime or something like that. And that is also a huge bonus. Yeah, it's highly extendable. I mean, you can write your own plugins if you like. You can plug it into other systems. Yeah, you can template the resources with other systems, for example. You can basically put it into each and every workflow because with Git as the API for it, in the end, everything that can interact with Git, including people, can interact with this system as well. So it's very extendable in that sense. And this also shows you that the self-service capabilities are just great because you can plug anything that can write a file, you can plug in there out of the box. If Git is your API, and you don't have to take care of what happens after that because Argo CD will reconcile it. Rollout Kargo will automatically recognize the new artifacts, for example, and so on and so forth. So these are the main reasons why we are even using those specific products, yeah, and why we are doing this switch from this push principle to pull principle with GitOps as well. If you look at the platform, I just want to go very, very briefly over this. You can see that Kargo and Argo are in the middle in the integration plane. So alongside the image repository, our code repositories, and some other orchestrators. And these two tools help us to integrate the development plane, so the self-service portal in Backstage and Git, with our resource plane. Yeah, so everything or almost everything, for example, is done by Argo CD, even infrastructure resources, at least I would say like 70% of these, are synchronized by Argo CD to the cluster and then managed by some infrastructure tool on the cluster, like Crossplane or Pulumi, for example. And Kargo, obviously, is mostly tailored to developers. Yeah, so we're not talking about infrastructure resources there mainly, but mostly about deployment artifacts for developers. But you can see that Argo CD, for example, plays a huge role in all of this platform as an orchestrator that moves definitions from one place to another, and then lets the let the operators do their job over there. And that's very nice because you basically can move everything. It doesn't matter what it is. It might be a custom resource you created with Crossplane that interacts with some of your custom APIs, or it might be some other standard Kubernetes resource. It really doesn't matter. Quick word about the architecture of all of this. You can see here in the bottom that there is a specific management cluster in which these tools run that offers the user a unified control plane there. That means users have one Argo CD in non-prod and one in prod, because that is required by our security guidelines. But you could even have one in total if you'd like. And these tools cater all the services on all the clusters. So we as an infra team can decide where a service goes by defining the correct Argo CD application and the stages and everything. And the user don't even has to care about it. The user might not even know if he will run some workload cluster 1, 2, 3, or 5. And we can easily shift those services as well, because it's just a matter of adopting the Argo CD application, the Argo CD application set, and so on. Yeah. So it really helps us to get this separation of concerns and make sure that the users are flexible as well. Enough of the talk, I would say. I'll just walk you through very quickly about two different scenarios, what you might want to achieve, and how it would look like as a developer on our platform. So I will show you quickly. I hope this is visible for you here. I will show you quickly, first of all, how the setup is done. So you can already see here on the left-hand side on my screen, you can see an application set definition. These are created automatically. You don't need to go through it. I will just explain what it does. When you create a new application in self-service, it will template these resources that will automatically set up what you can see on the right-hand side in Argo CD, which is a couple of out-of-the-box environments, that will be provided for your application. And it will also set up a basic cargo stages and integrate it with the repositories that were created by the self-service automatically. So this gives you a set of standard stages that we defined out of the box as a platform engineering team. But the nice thing now is, if you look at the definition of these stages here in Git, let's have a look at this stage, for example. This basically is already the most primitive offering of self-service, because any developer can go here, add another stage, add another 10 stages, add another 100 stages, create an MR, and get it out of the box. It's not a big deal. And you can see that with predefined cluster promotion tasks that Kargo offers, we can already give the user the standard workflow for promotions out of the box without the user having to do anything about it. And he can extend his own environment. He can extend another 10 stages. It really doesn't matter, because Kargo will take care of the manifests, and then Argo CD, an application set, will take care of deploying the corresponding application. And this is, I think, or this is all I want to say about the setup in terms of how we integrate it into self-service. And if you have further question about this, we can talk about it later, because I don't want to lose too much time here. But I think the important part is you can be smart about using Argo CD to also leverage Git again to even set up your GitOps pipeline, or your GitOps setup in the first place. But now let's have a look into the actual repository. So you can see in Kargo, there are two parts in our warehouse here on the left-hand side, which is the image repository and the Git repository for this service. And Kargo will create combinations of these artifacts. For example, here we have a specific Git commit and the version 4.0.0 of our microservice here. But this is not the beginning of a developer's journey, because here you can see we already have a semantic version. Usually, as a developer, you start earlier. You start with some kind of feature that you want to develop, maybe a feature branch, or maybe something that's hidden behind a feature flag. Depends on how you want to develop. But usually, you start with something that we call ephemeral environment. Yeah, so an environment that you can spin up and tear down again and do whatever you want with it. And for this, we don't use Kargo yet, because for us, there's a clear separation. Kargo is for the stable environments, and Argo CD itself will handle the ephemeral environments. Yeah. So let me start with the first scenario that I want to show you very quickly, and that is, what if I want a quick disposable environment with this setup? It's pretty easy. Our task is, here there is a branch already that is the switch to v4. You can see in Kargo that currently the deployment is at version 3. Yeah. So let's create a merge request where we switch, or where we test version 4 from this branch. So it's very simple. I'm going to create a merge request in Git. The huge benefit of a merge request here is that, again, it lifts the need for you to create custom integrations like approval workflow and everything. You can just use your Git provider, GitHub or GitLab or whatever you have. It's all there. In best case, it's already integrated with your SSO from your company. So what else to do here? Yeah. I could here now use our implementation to create an ephemeral environment by issuing a smart or short command that is then processed by a bot, and the bot will add specific labels here, and then the Argo CD application set will pick these up, or pick merge requests up that have this specific label and create an environment out of it. This takes up to 1 minute maximum or something like that, until the next reconciliation, and then Argo CD will create an environment out of it. Now, why do we do it that way? You can now already see the environment is created and everything is deployed here out of the box. I have talked about how pipelines are usually wasteful, and with this implementation, we can limit the time of the ephemeral environment. So we can say, you can see this will exist until 1st of March now, and then it's going to be removed, except if I extend it before that, and then I can keep the environment as well. Or if I close the merge request, everything will be removed and the case is closed for us, and we save some resources. So this is pretty much it about ephemeral environments. It's pretty straightforward. It's very simple for developers. They can just go quickly recreate the status on the cluster. They will get automatic access and everything is handled out of the box. So pretty straightforward.
Johannes,
now
there's a question I think would go good right here. Someone asked in the chat. They said, is it planned also to also use Kargo for your ephemeral environments? And if so, what would be the differences to long-living environments? So curious to hear your answer to that, and any kind of the trade-offs of why you did it this way a little bit more, maybe. Answer that.
Yeah. So no, we don't plan to use Kargo for short-lived environments or for ephemeral environments, simply because the integration with Argo CD is super simple in the first place, and it's not really required, because what you basically want to do with Kargo is, or what we want to do, is to make sure that we identify the artifacts across different stages. Because if you think about it, you could do all of this in Git itself. Yeah. For example, one possibility would be I could tag a specific commit in Git. Yeah, I could just tag it as version 4. I could add another tag, for example, I don't know, tag that is called prod, add it to a specific commit, and let Argo CD always sync the latest commit with that tag, for example. It would work. Like, I could implement GitOps stages, I would say, without Kargo, but the problem is it's incredibly tedious. Yeah, and you need to manage these tags, and you need to make sure that you put the right commits together and the right artifacts, and that everything has been through all stages beforehand. It would be incredibly tedious. So the real value really comes from the fact that if you have, let's say, a version you actually intend to move to production, yeah, not something that's work in progress or where some part of the feature is missing and so on, but something you really want to, where you have an actual intent to move it to production. That's where Kargo comes in for us, because then it really becomes interesting. Has this been in dev? Has this been in test stable? Has this been in UAT? And so on and so forth. And then you also have a lot less of actors in the same place, or in the same, working on the same thing, because otherwise, from my experience, what you don't want is promotions going on all the time, because you will have merge requests all the time. One promotion has to wait for the other, because it's kind of a sequential process. So we use Kargo as soon as we have sorted the initial coordination out with ephemeral environments, and everything is merged to a develop branch. And then that's where Kargo actually starts and takes over the sequential part of managing the GitOps, the GitOps Argo CD combination, so to say. Yeah.
Awesome.
I will.
I think that's really good. I think there's some more questions that have come out of this. I think we'll come back to those, but I thought that one was probably good to take before we moved on. I think that was a great explanation.
Absolutely. And I will let me come to my second example, because you will also see the stable deployment now, because I've shown you the ephemeral environment. Let me just remove that, because I'm a good citizen, and of course I remove everything I create. So I just close this merge request, and Argo will take care of the rest. So let's say the second scenario, I'm here on my develop branch, yeah, and now I see that there are some random changes in here. And if I look into these, what happened here? Someone updated a dependency chart in our base chart. So we have a base chart, we provide that to users. They can use that base chart, and we manage it for them. This is done via a Helm umbrella chart. So we have a dependency to a version chart in that. In a classic pipeline in here as well, you cannot see what changes in this Helm chart. You can see that the version changes here, yeah, but I have no idea what the actual changes in this dependency chart are. If I usually, or if in my old world, if I deploy this pipeline, I run Helm upgrade, and then I'm surprised by the changes. So let's try to promote this and see what Kargo does to get a better understanding about why it's so helpful. Okay, so we can have a look at we can also use version 4. Yeah, we can right away also migrate to version 4. That will give you a second insight. So let's check the commit here. I think this is commit D6632FDD. So it's this one. Yeah. Kargo has already put together a thread from this. So combination of this git commit and my version 4 of the image. So let's promote this one. I select promote and I promote it. And now what Kargo does is it runs a couple of steps in the background. It will check out the repository, copy it, upgrade the image tag, template the Helm manifests out completely. It will completely template the Helm manifests and then put it in a special folder in the repository and create a merge request from it. So again, I have a merge request. Everything is traceable. Everything is auditable. If I look into this merge request, you can see the version has been upgraded everywhere from 3 to 4. That's fine. That looks good. And look at that. This is the actual change in the umbrella chart. So I have, by hydrating the manifest, by templating it and trying to put it into Git, this change has now become visible. And this is very, very important to understand, because you can see this is just a manifest.yaml file in the end folder here that is trying to be merged. That means this manifest.yaml in this end folder is the ultimate truth of what will be deployed to the cluster. And this makes something abstract, like I'm just gonna push the version of my Helm chart, dependencies, to something very, very clear and very absolute, because I can actually see each and every line of my code that will change. And I can now decide, is this actually a good thing to do or not? And I don't have to just deploy it to the cluster and then compare it, or have to run Helm template and then compare one by one what has changed or something like that. Yeah. So this is a really good, or this is one of the main benefits why I'm totally convinced that rendered manifests, what Taylor already mentioned, this is called rendered manifest, that is an absolute win for reliability and for making sure that you actually only have things on the cluster you actually want. Okay, I think we can just deploy it and see. So I'm going to merge it. You can already see Argo CD takes care of the rest, because it recognizes that there has been a change in this manifest file, and it will deploy it to the cluster. On a side note, it's also very extendable, because if I go here into the end folder, if I add another folder here, Argo CD will also recognize it and create another environment, another stable environment for us, because it's just an application set. It's super extendable. And yeah, here we are. You can see the new image has been deployed already, the 4.0, and now some parts of verification will run. So we're gonna check the metrics. I configured this demo to be very, very quick. Usually you would check the metrics for, I don't know, something like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, I don't know, as long as you like. And then decide. We are using Argo rollouts as well, but there's no time to go into that now. That will gradually roll out the traffic or switch the traffic from one version to another. But the point is, everything integrates very well. So you can see the promotion steps here are on the left-hand side. Argo CD is already done. The rollout was reflected. We couldn't see it because it was too fast, but was reflected over here in Kargo. And Kargo will also recognize the status here and then run a verification. You can see here now that the verification is currently ongoing by Kargo. So it will then it will now fetch metrics from our monitoring system to see if this is actually a healthy deployment. And then mark your application as having been on that stage already successfully. So you can see 4.0 has been on dev now. Apparently it has also been on the other stages, but not in the same configuration here. Here it's we have only one red bar for dev, because this combination of image and Git commit has been only on dev until now. And this is really good in terms of how you can promote through different stages that users can define on their own, yeah, and not lose track about all the Git artifacts you have. Okay, so much about the demo. I think we have just enough time to go to talk a little bit about what else we have seen or what we experienced and what's coming up soon. Just need to always switch here. That's interesting. Let's talk quickly about challenges that we saw until now. So I would say the concept switch is hard to grasp for people. Yeah. When I was using Cargo for the first time, I wasn't sure what it was for, and I only understood once I actually used it. So I started using it, and then I understood, okay, this thing is actually a huge problem. Like not Cargo, but the thing it solves is actually a huge problem. I only understand or understood after that. So it's hard for users to understand it at first. It takes some training for them, yeah, especially if you're in an environment, I think many of you know, that maybe has high pressure, yeah, or tight budgets and everything, then it will require you train people first until they understand the value, and then they will be very happy. That is our experience. Another thing we are not sure about yet is the scalability of this hub-spoke model of Argo CD. So having one Argo CD managing all the applications across all clusters. For sure, there will be some kind of issue at some point. I'm very sure. Yeah. So we cannot really tell, and I'm very curious about other insights or about yeah Taylor's opinion on this as well. Yeah, what's the best solution here? Because I don't think it's really a solved problem. Yeah. And then what's also interesting for people is, or what's also a challenge we saw until now. So with this process, we rely almost exclusively on merge requests. So you have a lot more merge requests now. So make sure that the review cycles are adopted to this, that merge requests or pull request reviews are prioritized, that the right people are assigned. You can do all of this, but you need to configure it first. And last but not least, I already said, I absolutely appreciate the UI. It's a game changer for for usability in terms of, or in comparison with the CLI. But of course, you have another UI as well. Like you have Cargo, you have Argo CD, you have Git, you have Grafana, you have Kibana maybe. So there are a lot of UIs in this ecosystem, and this is adding another one. So some people told us they don't like another UI. I think the benefits outweigh this problem, but of course, I mean that's the reality. It still is another UI. Yeah. So much about our challenges, I would say, but I think for some of these, maybe there are already solutions. So Taylor, please
Yes.
tell us what's next.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and show some of the roadmap stuff. So one of the things that's really interesting here, so that the first point of feedback, I love that Johannes brought it up because that's something we're trying to actively work on, because people look at it, they're like, but I don't get it, and then they try it and they're like, oh, I get it now. And so we really are trying to make that better. So this is one of the ways we're doing it, is with webinars like this. So hopefully you guys saw how this all like works together. It's really cool to see like the application sets work with Cargo and how you can update those. You are right about the scalability of the hub spoke model. That's actually something that we've done inside of Akuity. So the Akuity platform, our product actually has essentially the agent-based model, and that overcomes some of the scalability issues you're talking about. Because a lot of times when you have multiple repo servers that are all fetching, that all like the more applications you get, the more bogged down the traffic gets, and so that is definitely something that is something that we solve with our product itself, but there are various solutions for open source in the works too, so something to keep in mind. The other thing too that we've been that I didn't list on this right side with the fragmented and many UIs, the other advantage we have in the product, we actually have a link straight into the Argo UI from like you can actually just view it inside the Kargo UI right now for Argo, and that's just because we can have that level of integration when we're controlling how the things are installed. That's something that's a little bit harder to do on a like open source side because you don't know how everybody has their thing configured. But those are I love. We wanted to have this slide here because we love hearing about the feedback and talking about the things that we've been working on as a community. So some of the stuff that's been coming out that I think is of interest to a lot of people. So these first three items are things that we've recently added in Cargo 1.9. So we really improved warehouse performance and caching. So there's a basic caching layer. Warehouses was one of those things where we worried most about, especially as you scale, like the scalability of it, how many things are being pinged and when they're being pinged and rate limits and those kind of things. And so the warehouse performance and caching is something we've been working on quite a bit. Then we have new generic webhooks that are used to basically trigger like, hey, I have a new artifact or I have something new that makes the discovery of artifacts much more efficient. And another thing that has been a big ask is label-based app syncing, where instead of saying it's this specific application, I can select a group of applications that might be related that might need to be triggered all together. So those are some of the new features we've released that are pretty exciting. And then coming up as well, we have custom steps in the work where you can bring your own steps. We also have automatic rollback is on the roadmap as well. And then we have a few additional quality of life steps that we've heard a lot of feedback from the community about, such as Argo CD wait, so you can wait for certain things, conditions inside of Argo CD that aren't just like the built-in things we have already. As well as features like setting aliases. There's a couple like I just listed two because there's a couple. So those are where we're going with a lot of these features. And yes, we're trying to improve the how easy it is for people to understand this because we want people to see the value right out the gate. So um, also we're always open to hearing other feedback on that from people who are using this out in the community. So if you're one of those people, feel free to reach out to us. We like hearing about that. So awesome. Okay, those are kind of where we're at with like what some of the challenges are, what the roadmap is. Was there anything else, Johannes, you wanted to share before we went to Q&A and started kind of going through all the questions we're getting?
No, let's hit the questions.
Okay, awesome. So we'll go ahead and get to the Q&A section here. There are a few in chat. There's a few from our Q&A. Adriana, I think, has some of the Q&A ones. So if you want to send those our way when you get a chance, that'd be great. I'll start taking some of these in here. There was a question earlier about whether the stuff that Johannes was showing was doing the application set. If the application sets like updated the image tag or any of those things, I think that the rendered manifest pattern was the answer to that,
Yeah,
where that's being done inside a cargo so that you can see what's going on. Is that correct?
exactly. So you don't need. I think there's the image updater, I think, or something in Argo CD originally, but you don't need it because Cargo will update the image tag and then put it into the rendered manifest, and that will be in your Git history. So in worst case, you could even just go into Git, change the manifest manually, yeah, and it would also be deployed to the cluster. You just have to imagine there's just a templated manifest, all the YAML that you could also just kubectl apply, exactly the same format, and that's stored in Git, and Argo will just pick it up and then deploy it to the cluster. And maybe I can quickly answer one question about the deployment history, because that was a question here. And I think, yes, Cargo does. I think it has some flight history. But in the end, your deployment history is also just Git. This file, this manifest file in Git, if you look at the history of this file, that's what has been deployed to the cluster. So
Yeah.
you have it in two places, basically.
It really does help you stay true to the GitOps principles here. Like you're not having some magic step happen in Argo where it updates a thing or like runs customize. You're doing just a straight like if you want to revert, you do like a git revert and back to that commit, or you can repat. You're just stepping through the Git history, which is the whole point of
exactly.
that.
I can just revert the pull request. It's another commit, and I'm back at the previous version.
Yeah. And we also have the Adriana just sent it out in the chat to everybody. We do have a post on the Akuity blog about the rendered manifest pattern if you're curious about learning more about that. That gives you a few more details if you're curious about digging into it a bit more. Okay. Let's see. One of the other questions on there, I think this would be good for you, Johannes, is the how do you handle approval of deployments to production? Is there a manual approval step involved that's integrated with Kargo?
So in Cargo, no, not in Cargo itself. Of course, first of all, we have authorizations in Cargo, so not everyone can just run a deployment or something like that. Yeah, the Cargo, it's you can check it in the docs, but it's also integrated into the RBAC on the cluster, so the native RBAC, and then Cargo maps that from your groups that you have in the SSO, for example, in your single sign-on provider. That's how we do it. You can order some groups, and then it's mapped to RBAC on the cluster. And if you are in that team, you can create promotions and everything. So that's the first thing. And then the second, the actual question. Again, it's just in GitLab. You protect your main branch, you protect your develop branch as whatever you want. And you can have merge request rules that require 5 approvals from a specific person, or you can have a merge request rule that requires 1 approval from literally anyone. It's up to you. Like you can just define your rules on your repository, and that will be your approval workflow in the end.
Yeah,
Of
and
course,
although
given you work with pull requests or merge requests.
yeah. And just I'll note that we've also considered we haven't fully like put it like architected it out or decided what we're going to do, but we've looked at definitely adding in manual approvals or other types of approvals as well, but that's still under construction and discussion. But like Johannes said, this is very true to the GitOps principles. You protect your Git, then you're protecting what you're deploying. And so that's I think the core thing to remember here. But like I said, there's obvious use cases where you might need other link into other approval systems and things. And in that case, like that's what we're looking at, figuring out how we can do properly so that it can connect into everything it needs to.
Maybe Taylor, I can ask a question. Would something like this custom steps that is coming up be
Mhm.
able to solve this?
Yes, that would also be able to help solve that in a similar way. Is you could because it pretty much is just saying you could run like a specific like compliance thing on it. Like for example, if you need like a compliance approval that runs through like a security scanner or some sort of thing like that, that's the kind of thing that could happen. So could render the manifests, check those manifests, and if then commit or commit and then check something against your environment or however you want to do it. Um, as you could see, like in all those steps that Johannes was showing in his, you can arrange those steps in whatever order you want. So we make sure that you just can get the right signals from each of those steps. So that's what those custom steps would be able to enable for you. Okay, let me check. Did we miss anything, Adriana? I think we caught all the ones from the channel. Yes,
Yes,
I think we did.
yes. And there are no Q&A. There are no questions on the Q&A box, so I think everything is on the chat, so I think we're good. May.
Awesome. Well, we'll pass it back to Adriana to wrap things up. But I just want to say, Johannes, it's been great chatting with you on this. Hopefully, this has been like really helpful for people out in the community to see how someone is using this at scale in a really cool environment. So it's been great to have you here and chatting about this with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it helps. I hope people can understand what it is about. And if there's anything, like any questions or anyone, I also saw someone asking about the shift, which is telecom lingo. So just ping me directly in LinkedIn or wherever you like. And I'd be happy to also get in touch with you.
Thank you.
We'll
Johannes,
pass it off to Adriana to share. So Johannes, you can.
Yeah.
thank you very much. I know that we have a few questions, and please, I will capture them on the chat. I think we just saw one more, but I can answer you afterwards via email. But let me quickly share so we can wrap this up. We have our upcoming session actually. It's also about Cargo, how to simplify and automate promotions at scale. This is happening March 17, also with our hosts today, Taylor and Eddie as well. So I will drop the link in the chat. And also, if you want to continue the conversation with Taylor, we're also in Akuity Discord channel. So drop in both links on the chat right away. At this webinar, you will learn how to simplify operational oversights with unified Kargo and Argo CD interface, unify promotions across Kubernetes, Terraform, VMs, and cloud services, reduce promotions complexity by eliminating customs scripts and tooling, and get clear visibility and control over the entire deployment pipeline. So all of this you will learn back on March 17th. So hope you can join us and feel free to register. The link is on the chat. And once again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you to Taylor and Johannes for being here with us today. And yes, it's been a pleasure.